Relationship is the most important thing on the planet. First, our relationship with God, then our relationship with our family, and finally our relationship with everybody else. Jesus pointed this out in the two great commandments in the Word of God, where he said, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and spirit, and strength, and also love your neighbor as yourself. And so love obviously has to do with relationship when it comes to people. Oftentimes we use the word love pretty loosely. I don't love my dog like I love my wife. And I don't love a hamburger like I love my wife. There's a special connection in relationship that you cannot find anywhere else. And a great relationship can be so rewarding. And I think there is something inside of each and every one of us that wants that. There is a quest for intimacy and connection and love that every single person has. As a counselor, I can tell you I meet people occasionally who say, I just want to be by myself. If I could, I'd go live in a mountain somewhere and just be a hermit. I don't really like people. Now, that probably comes from some faulty core beliefs and some things that have happened in their life that cause them to feel that way. But deep down in their heart of hearts, everybody wants somebody to love and to be loved by. And that is a fact. Relationships can be super if they're a good relationship. But if they're not a good relationship, they can be extremely painful. They can be traumatic. They can be depressing. They can be degrading. They can be some of the most worst experiences that anybody could possibly have. And so the question I have today is when you think about the people you're in relationship with, I know that it's kind of hard to encompass all this in one statement or one question, but really I want to ask you this question. Is it a relationship or is it an arrangement? Is it a relationship or is it an arrangement? A relationship is when two people are joined together with like-mindedness, same purpose. They're giving as well as receiving. They are more concerned about the other person than they are themselves, perhaps. There is a love and affection and a concern for the other individual. But an arrangement is something totally different than that. Let me tell you a story. So I had someone, actually a couple that was in my life for a good long while, 10 years, maybe more. At any rate, I'm a person that I get all in, and so I'm one of those people that I was one of my areas that I have to work on is need for affirmation and acceptance. And when you're that type of person, you tend to emotionally invest in other people that you feel close to. And I did that with this person. And so I would emotionally invest, and I financially invested a lot because I loved this person and I wanted this person to be happy. I wanted her and her family's life to be rich and purposeful and significant. And I tried to do everything on my part that I could do to try to make that happen. And for a long time, it seemed like we had a relationship. But when it came down to the end of that relationship, okay, what happened is that I found out that I had genuine concern and love for this individual. But for them, or that person, it was an arrangement. The arrangement was, as long as they got what they wanted or she got what she wanted, then that relationship was really, that's all that was based on. And once they felt that whatever good that they're going to get out of me was gone, they focused on themselves, as they had been probably the whole entire time, which I was not aware of. And so I was, dispensable. I don't look at relationships as dispensable. I look at them as something you're investing in that should be long term. I have friends that I've invested in, and they have invested in me, and we've been friends for almost 40 years. And so, when I go into a relationship, if it's a genuine relationship, I look at it as something that's going to be lifelong and long term. Bad relationships create a lot of bad stuff. I have never been in a toxic relationship. We hear the word toxic relationship. I think it's when two people get together and nothing really good comes out of it. And you can do this as well, but I kind of Googled what is really a toxic relationship, what are the characteristics of it, and it kind of stood out to me, some of the things. A lack of support, where one or both partners undermine the other person's goals or dreams or whatever. Constant criticism or contempt, where there's regular put downs and sarcasm and feel like you are never good enough. There's a lot of control and manipulation involved in relationships like this, where one partner is basically making decisions for the other partner. A lack of trust and honesty, a lot of drama, a feeling of being drained all the time, or you're constantly on pins and needles and walking on eggshells. There is a lot of disrespect or abuse, and basically it's a one-sided relationship. So that's the way relationships are when they're not right. They are one-sided. And so in this world, we have two types of people generally, and I tend to simplify things pretty well. One of those, there's two types of people in this world I consider givers and takers. And, and it's not all about your money. It's also about your time and your willingness to give of yourself for somebody else, and really put somebody else in front of you. And when you have a taker in a relationship, what you've got is an arrangement. Because as long as they're taking and you're giving, things are well. If you put two takers in a relationship, you definitely have a toxic relationship. You've got two people that are just feeding off of each other. Occasionally I do marriage counseling, and occasionally you see a couple that is, let's say the man is very narcissistic. If you've ever been around anyone who's extremely narcissistic, they are totally focused on themselves. They are constantly controlling everybody around them. They only see things one way. They can't have it anybody else's way but their own. And then you put a female with that man who is very dependent, not codependent, but dependent. In other words, for whatever reason, maybe the way she was raised or whatever, she's beat down. She doesn't feel independent, doesn't feel empowered really to do anything, and actually feeds into this narcissism where, when the guy is controlling her, it's actually meeting a need for her because she doesn't know anything else. And so when you look at that relationship from outside looking in, you're like, man, those two people, they are in trouble. They are, they're not very much fun to be around because you feel so bad for the wife and you really can't stand to be around the guy because, it's always his way or the highway. And you think to yourself, why doesn't she just leave him and get on with her life somehow or another? But the reason for that is that as twisted as it sounds, he's actually meeting her need and she's meeting his need. He needs somebody to control, and she needs to be controlled because she doesn't know any better. And so that's what you call a toxic relationship. But do you know that those two people will likely never end up in counseling simply because of the fact that they have come to grips with the fact that this is the way their life is. But even though it looks like a relationship to them, we see it for what it really is, which is really an arrangement. Because there's no real concern and genuine love and sincerity in it. And it's all about trying to meet my own needs. Some of you have been in really, really bad relationships. And, oftentimes when we get in a bad relationship and we get hurt, it's because we are emotionally needy and we invest ourselves. And it's kind of like if you're a very emotionally needy person, you're a magnet for people who want to take advantage of you. And so it is extremely important to set good boundaries for yourself, to make sure that you realize that, yes, it's okay to invest my emotions into this individual, but let me make sure that this person has my best interest in mind. Let me make sure that I'm just not getting my needs met, but also they're getting their needs met by investing in me. You know, not me investing in them, although you're doing that, but I need to know that they are actually having a need met in them by investing in me. In other words, they are enjoying the relationship. They see the relationship as something valuable to them. And we're going to talk in the next session about resolving conflict and what causes a lot of conflict in relationships. But I'll just give you a little bit of a hint, because relationships, often bad relationships, usually occur when there is some sort of attack and withdrawal. One person feels assaulted, the other person draws away, and that withdrawal itself can be an attack. It's a way of punishing the other person. And so if you're in a relationship and you see that there is this constant back and forth going on, then there is room for work. It doesn't mean that the relationship should be ended, and I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that there is work to be done. And so I want you to begin to evaluate some of the relationships you have in your life. As I mentioned previously, this is a great time for you to get your journal out and really go back and maybe identify some of those relationships that did not end well. Ask yourself this question. Was I invested and the other person was not? Or maybe you were the person actually who is the taker and the other person was the giver. What were you really looking to get out of this relationship? Was it something they were providing for you physically and materially, or was there actually an emotional connection that was deep and sincere and genuine? And so there's a lot of work to do in this area of relationship, and I hope that you're on board with us. Make sure you tell somebody else about us. Interact with me. You can find my email address on the YouTube channel, and I will talk to you next time. God bless you. Bye-bye.